Hey folks, ET here coming at you with our weekly prep. We're going to go over some tickers tonight, BAC, XOM, and Rivian. So we're going to go ahead and cover these instead of SPY and QQQ. I'll get those out a little bit later in some shorter videos that go on Twitter, but it seems the most popular ones are always the offshoot tickers. So we're going to go ahead and just jump in and start with BAC, look at its data, see where it's at. Obviously, it's been in a pretty nice uptrend. If you can see today how well gamma levels work, it has stayed around here, and it finally broke out a little bit up today. Point out that this is a negative level right here on the chart, so it could repel away. If not, it's in a ghost zone up to 3250. But let's go ahead and take a look. Its biggest dark pool that is aggregate is 2870, so we are currently above that price. There's another large one around 2950, which is quite a bit or quite a bit below it as well. So its two biggest levels are kind of a little bit below price, and then up top 3190. We'll see if that means anything when we look at the rest of the charts. This is another pretty substantial level. So let's go ahead and look at its flow and its net flow and everything else. It's 5 days. You can see it had a good day today, so it ran up a little bit. Okay, so you can see its net flow is catching up there. Puts have remained heavy though. You don't see them really tapering off even during this run up that it got to today. All right, so let's go ahead and keep scrolling through. Doesn't have the best dealer Greek back test for the build up, so you know I just kind of, when I see these numbers, I just tend to ignore them because it doesn't really give a really big winning percentage like a lot of others do. So I just kind of put a scratch on this and say I'm going to look at other data and see what it says instead. All right, going through its price distribution, a pretty even Monday going in. Let's go ahead and just flip through the rest of the day. Tuesday's looking a little bit more bearish. Thursday more bearish. Friday, sorry, that's Thursday. Wednesday more bearish, Thursday more bearish, and then Friday also bearish. So it's showing a sort of an even Monday, maybe a round trip day for whatever its levels are. And then price distribution is showing some bearish signals throughout the week. So our dealer OI is also showing this says bearish, but this is actually right a bullish position on dealer. Right, red on dealer is a bullish position, and green is a bullish position as well. If customer OI was over here, right here in the red, that's bearish, okay? So customer OI is very clear cut. Green bars means go, right? Red bars mean negative. Dealer is the opposite, a little bit less clean cut. Red bars mean positive momentum. Green bars mean negative momentum. So it is matching up. It doesn't match up with price distribution there quite yet, obviously, because it's showing a little bit of bullish positioning by dealers and customers. Checking its gamma, it is at 31.98, so technically it has gotten above the 728 expiry here. All right, so this is our 728 expiry that I picked. We can check 8.4 to see what it says. It's weird that its biggest pull is 30.5. It's very, very small on that negative side. And another thing is its arc here is pretty interesting. It's supported around 30 and slightly getting supported around 33.1 if that ends up coming down. So that's an interesting look there. But if we're just going to play for the 728 week and check some things, what I'd really like to see is it to maybe draw past where it is right now. Let's see if we can get actually a bigger negative gamma level somewhere around here. Okay, so our 8.4, that's a little bit more helpful, is showing a 32.5 negative level. It doesn't have to be just the week's exposure, by the way, where things happen. So let's go ahead and just take a look at that real quick. 32.5 is a level where it could reject, and look at that. A green repel level right here at 32.5. Obviously a break above. It does have ghost zones all the way up if it decides to go to 35 if banks have a good week. But if they don't have a good week, or if just BAC has a bad week all on its own, 32.5 would be a level that I would look to short just based on its price distribution and its net flow. It's showing negative. That continues to hold negative. You know me, I like to short run-ups, and I like the long pullbacks. So if I could get a 32.5 tap, that is where I would go short. And let's just take a look at the levels really quick again. I think 29 or 30. Oops, I've brought you to XOM. That's not where we're going. 30.5, which is a little bit far down if we're looking at the 728 expiry. 29.5 was its biggest pull down. So if I'm planning BAC out, I'm gonna set an alert right? So let's just say I want to set an alert at 32.49. Now my phone is going to tell me it's going to beep when it gets near this and say it is crossing. I will set that alert. I'll recheck its data, and instead of going just full in on the 29.5s, I'll probably buy, if everything still matches up, some 30.5s right around here, right? Some 30.5s a few weeks out to see how they work out. That's how I would play BAC personally. So that's how I'm looking at that one. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and move into Rivian is our next one. So with our next request, we're going to take a look. This is one of those tickers I don't play too often, so I could definitely miss this one big time, but we're about to find out. So its current level, biggest dark pool level, is 25.14, which is pretty interesting because we are at 25.14 in post market right now. So below that, right, 25.14 would be technically a resistance, and you can see there's a couple of times that it struggled to get over that. If we just kind of look left and go throughout the time, right around that area, there were some rejects and things. Above it, it can continue to go. So that's an interesting look for it there. Let me go ahead and grab its options. Its 5 days quite bearish, I will point out. It is quite bearish. There are still some heavy calls sitting in some 818s on 20s that are obviously in the money, and its call and put OI is doing all right there for the calls. Also doesn't have the best back test, so we put an X on this and see how that goes. Dealer OI is very bullish. Customer OI is very bullish. Monday is showing a fairly bullish day. Tuesday, another bullish day it's showing. Wednesday, the same. Thursday, it shows a bit of a pullback for price distribution, and Friday, pretty even. Looks like more of a round trip day there. So there's a little bit of data that lines up a little bit that doesn't. Right, our customer OI and our dealer OI do line up with the first 4 days of price distribution, but not the next. Our net flow is quite negative, but there are quite a few calls sitting on the board, as you can see here, that haven't been exited yet. So there's a lot of open interest there sitting there. Let's go ahead and just grab our 728, which it looks like I already had. Pretty interesting that its biggest gamma pull going into 728 is still 25, so right around that dark pool area. This is one of those things that I will probably decide if I decided to trade Rivian, is I'm going to look at first the extremes. This 26, if it can get over 26, I'm just going to wait and see if it gets to the 27.5 or the 30, and that is around the spot that I would decide to go short on it. If for some reason it gets down to this 23 and it starts to repel a little bit, with 25 being its biggest pull for the week, that is where I would go a little bit long on it. I keep these things so simple when I'm looking at these charts. Let's go ahead and pull up another week and see if there's any change. So going out a little further, it actually looks like 18.5. Let's see, 307, 32. So the 26 is still a bigger pull there. Pretty interesting to see this 25.5 as a decent repel either way. Could push it back down. Let's check one more week just to see if there's anything that shows its hand a little bit more. Okay, so there's a 20 down there. That's a pretty sizable pull. So if we're looking at it, it looks like it has some room up potentially too. Let's go ahead and take one more look at its shorter dated for 728. Looks like it definitely has some room up to potentially 26.5 or 30, but it shows 20 a little bit later on. So if I'm going to long this from anywhere along here up to the 25 or up to the 30, I'm going to be really eyeing this 30 for some downside towards that 20 on the chart. And so that is where, if I'm just looking at it chart wise, I really want to see it tap this 30 long before I would short. In trading around this 25, if it gets too far below early, then I'm going to want to long up to it a little bit, trim some to see if its momentum continues, and I really would like to see it hit this 30 at some point, at a minimum, for some far outputs into that 20 pull, as long as that 20 pull changes. All right, so that is Rivian. Not something I usually play. This is not something that I would definitely would not mess with usually, but users in the trading Discord did ask me to cover this one, so I am taking a look and giving it my best shot. A little bit like Carvana last week when I said I have no idea. A little bit less of a simple plan, a little bit less clear cut on this one. So at least following just data and only data. Let's go ahead and jump into XOM next. So here we are with XOM. This is something that I cover a lot. Its biggest dark pool is 103.18, and in post-market it is still above that. I covered this one last week in a video, in just the how to use gamma video. And I had said before, and I've been saying this all week, 101 to 100 ads, okay, right around there are what I am looking for consistently on XOM for longs, and I'll show you why here in a second. I have been absorbing every dip around this area with some longer dated calls, and I've been hitting the 106s or the 107s, depending, just kind of trading around the position, selling into some strength every time we get these green candles, waiting for another dip, which it hasn't been giving me as much of a dip. So all right, now I'm just holding strong with about a month left on my cons. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. We saw its dark pool. It's right around just right around this area right here, just a little bit below. Okay, and let's take a look at its options. So its net flow is strong, right? Puts are dropping off. It's just holding consistent. Call holders are not really giving up, which is interesting to see, and something that I enjoy because I am long on it. Not the best back test here either, so this is just one that I'll keep an eye on. They are all green, but I'll think about that later on my board. As far as dealer OI goes, they are bullish. Customer OI, they are also bullish. It's showing somewhat of a bearish day on Monday. Tuesday, it's showing another bearish day. Both looked a little mixed to me, so we had quite a few bars that were kind of evening it out a little bit. Wednesday, it's showing more bullish. Thursday, substantially more bullish, and Friday, quite bullish as well. Two bigger bars there. So that's some decent percent if it moves that much. This supports my thesis, and even if it decides to dip a little bit on Monday and come back down to the 102 or the 101, that's just another spot that I will probably personally continue adding. Now remember, I always use stop losses on my trades, so if I'm wrong and I make a bonehead move, I'm okay with that. I will just let my stop trigger and revisit the play as it goes along. So that is what I'm watching right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at its gamma levels and see what we have to see. I've got it pulled up already. Very interesting. If it shows a little bit of downside Monday and potentially Tuesday, a retrace to this 98 would be so ideal to get a repel to load more. Guess what? 106 is for me a little bit later on, a little bit further dated. Let's go ahead and check to see if there's anything different there. 100 going into the next week with a 98 repel as well, so not as strong, right? So maybe I shorten the expiry a little bit on my next round, hoping that the data is going to prove to go ahead and to bring it up to that 106. Let's go ahead and go into 811. Still 106 is the biggest pull, so maybe not. Maybe we're right. Maybe we get above this 104 and hold for a week and then start to repel upwards slowly. You know, when I scroll through these things, I just like to look to see what our biggest pulls are. So there we go. 818, which is a little bit before, actually right around where my calls are at right now. I think they are 818s, or maybe 1 week after. 110 is its biggest pull. I've been playing 106s. So my goal is just to follow this data up, right? I didn't choose just 110 in case it decides to just get there, right? I wanted to be in the money. I chose 106s, paid a little bit more premium on that, obviously, to do that. But those 106s I'm looking for to go ahead and trim some when it hits that area. And in the likelihood that this big pull going into 818 pulls it to 110, so then I'm $4 in the money as I go ahead and close out my cons. So that's how I would play that. As we can see here on its Gex and Vex, price is quite supported all along this level, really kind of all the way up to 108.5, which is very interesting to see, which is another thing that I've been keeping an eye on. XOM is one of my favorite tickers to play, both up and down. It follows its gamma levels slowly. Okay, it moves like a slug until it decides to go. It does follow them a little slowly, but that's why I buy time, so the Greeks don't get to me, and I just I buy in between the range that I want all the time. So I talk about AMD and XOM a lot, but they are two of my favorite tickers to play because they respect their levels so well. You're always going to get some candles below. Okay, so you're going to get a level, you're going to get some candles below and some retraces there. I don't worry about these things too much. Nothing is absolutely precise. You're never going to get exact levels on gammas. Sometimes you are, actually, but there's always going to be some other spots that are just support resistances that you can draw out to kind of keep yourself safe there. You see, we didn't go all the way down to the gamma here, but we did bounce here a lot. So there could be a dark pool. That was 101.50. somewhat-ish. So let's just take a look to see if there's anything around there. Yep, there you go, 101.57. There's a dark pool. So you can add those to your charts as well, like I do for SPY, if you see my chart every day, or if you're in the trading Discord and you actually use my live chart that's posted in there. So you can see you add these things and you get a little bit more of a grand picture of where your ads could be and where it might dip to on contrary days that are going against your play. That is all for now. I hope everybody has a good weekend. I'll have some more videos out on Sunday. I'm going to cover some more just random tickers that users have asked for. And then, like I said, I'll cover SPY and QQ and some shorter ones just on Twitter. Everybody have a good weekend and go get that Oprah money.